If you've ever wondered where all the art and images come from on the products that you see when you're out shopping, well, it's called art licensing, and today I wanted to explain all about it. So I've made a little presentation for you with all of the information that I thought you might find interesting about the world of art licensing. Hello and hi there, welcome in. If you're new here, I'm Michelle and I'm on a journey to becoming a full-time artist. And one of the ways I'm planning to make an income from my art is with art licensing. Chances are you might never have heard of this, but I'm sure you all have many products in your home that have licensed art on them. So let's get into it. So what exactly is art licensing? Basically, it's renting out your artwork to companies to put on their products. More formally, art licensing is a business arrangement where the creator of the artwork, the licensor, grants permission to another party, the licensee, to use their artwork under specific conditions. This arrangement allows the licensee to use their artwork on products, in advertising, or for other purposes, typically in exchange for a licensing fee or royalty payments. You might have stationery, dishes, mugs, tea towels, bedding, clothing, wall art, puzzles, pillows, etc. with licensed art on it in your home already. If it has an image or artwork on it, then the company most likely licensed it from an artist. Art licensing can be a lucrative way for artists to monetize their work without having to handle production and sales directly. For businesses, it provides access to unique and original artwork that can enhance their products and marketing efforts. Of course, these days we are seeing companies use AI to create their own free designs, but I don't think that it's going to take over anytime soon because I think that the AI art has a specific look to it and you can tell when something is AI generated. And in many cases, it's just not the kind of art that companies are going for. And I think they still look to have art that's specifically made by artists, and they're not looking to have their art produced by AI anytime soon. So I still think that there is a lot of room for artists to dive into art licensing and make it a stream of income for sure. So how does art licensing work? So the artist and company agree on the terms that outline how the artwork can be used, the duration of the licensing agreement, the geographic areas where the artwork can be used, and the terms of payment and the fee structure, including royalties or fees. So for the length of the contract, here's where you're going to decide how long the company can use your artwork for. Is it going to be 1 year, 5 years, 6 months? I think 1 to 3 years is a typical time frame, but you can decide what's going to work best for you. You can continue to also renew your contract once your licensing agreement is up if you want to have additional time frames for that particular contract when it's expiring. And the geographic area that the contract covers, if, like, for instance, you only want to use your art in a specific country or in all countries, you can negotiate this in your contract. So you might have different licenses with several companies, and each covers a different country or area. And then the fee, here's where you can also negotiate your payment and whether it's going to be a flat rate up front, or if you're going to collect royalty payments over the duration of the contract. Most often, I think this is done on a quarterly basis, but that could differ for different companies. Many times it's a partial payment up front to cover royalties, and then when you've reached that amount, when you've accrued that many royalties, then you'll start getting further payments over and above that initial, say, deposit that you've gotten for your royalties. And if you're working with an established company or brand, they're most likely going to have a contract to send to you. You want to make sure that you read it over very carefully, and in case they're trying to sneak in something, a clause or something that you didn't count on, So you want to make sure you know exactly what's in it and have someone like a lawyer or someone that's well versed in contracts maybe read it over for you so that you know exactly what has been stated in that contract. If you're working with a company that's newer and has never licensed art before, then it might be beneficial for you to have your own contract drawn up ahead of time so that you have something to work with, that maybe lays out all the ways that you want to negotiate your contract, and then you can, adjust it as you go with that company. But in the end, most companies will have a contract to send you, but it definitely doesn't hurt to have your own just to start with in case you need it. And have it made by a professional in some way too, so you make sure that you're covering all your bases and covering all the points that you want to have in your contract. So then the usage rights will need to be discussed. The agreement specifies the scope of the use, whether the artwork can be used on merchandise, in digital formats, for promotional purposes, etc. It may also detail restrictions to protect the integrity of the artwork and the artist's brand. So you might want to be able to specify like how that item is used or where it can be shown or where it can be used. And you want to make sure that you talk about all of that up front. And then you're going to negotiate what products your art will be used on. It could be on one product or it could be across several different products in a collection, for example, like a bedding collection where the art is used on sheets and pillows and maybe coordinating wall arts and rugs. You want to be clear and specify this so that companies don't start using your designs on multiple products when you only verbally discussed one product and put that in the contract. So get it all in writing up front. Exclusivity, it's another important point to discuss to avoid conflict down the road. Are you licensing to this company exclusively for a certain category or product? Or can you still license to other brands at the same time? Can you still license that design on different products or categories with other companies? These are all things that are very important to discuss and also include in your contract. The control of the artwork. Decide on the copyright terms of the agreement. Who owns the rights to your designs? You can decide whether to license your art or go for a full buyout. In most cases, it's important to keep ownership of your art. You want to own the copyright to your artwork so that you can continue to license it over and over again in many different ways to multiple companies. It is, however, possible that you could sell your rights outright to the company in a certain situation if it makes sense for both parties. Make sure you're compensated fairly, for you are never going to be able to license that artwork to anyone else or make any further money from it. So you want to make sure that if you do sell it out, that you get a really reasonable rate from them for that artwork. You're going to want to have some control how the artwork is used to ensure it aligns with your brand and maintains its quality. And this can include approval rights over how the artwork is applied to the products and where it is shown if it's used in promotional material. You also have to make sure the values and messages of the company that you are licensing to also aligns with that of your own brand, as your art will be associated with that company in the public eye. So licensing basically allows for a continuous stream of income through royalties as your designs are utilized by various companies and brands over time. With a buyout, you would get a large payment up front, which can be appealing, but you have to weigh the options for each situation, as you're going to lose out on any future income on that particular design. So sometimes it can be beneficial to work with a company, say, and with a buyout, if you're creating a specific design for a company and you're including in it any kind of copyrighted words or images from that company, that you could not actually sell that artwork anywhere outside of that contract. So it wouldn't make sense to take necessarily royalties. It would make sense for them to have control of the artwork because you can never use it again anyway. So that's one case where it might make sense to do a complete buyout and have just take a lump sum up front and then let the company have control of that piece of artwork. but you have to do what makes sense for you and your art. So the legal contract. It's really important to have all of the agreements in writing in a legal contract. Licensing agreements are legally binding and protect both parties' interests. They help prevent unauthorized use of the artwork and provide a framework for resolving disputes that might happen down the road. And additionally, these agreements outline the specific terms as previously discussed under which the artwork can be used, such as the duration, the geographic location, and the nature of the usage. And they ensure that the artist retains control over their creations while allowing the licensee to benefit from utilizing the artwork in a manner that is mutually agreed upon. So we have to make sure that clear licensing agreements are the best way for people to build relationships with the companies that you're working for, and it builds a lot of trust and respect with the companies by having these really good, well laid out licensing agreements and contracts, because setting out in writing clear expectations and the responsibilities of both parties leaves you both to do the things that you do best and not worrying about what legal ramifications might happen down the road. So it's very important to have your contracts very clear and in writing. Make sure everything is in writing. All right, I wanted to go over some of the popular categories for art licensing. It can be a really lucrative way for artists to monetize their work without having to handle all the productions and sales directly. So there's so many categories of things that you can get your art put on. And here's some of the the main categories I think that we're all familiar with. There's definitely more than this, but here's a few. It's a great way for companies to use unique and original artwork. It enhances their products and helps them sell their products and make more money. So it's a win-win for everybody. So we have areas like home decor, which covers all your bedding, your blankets, your dishes, your servingware, decorative objects, placemats, tablecloths, you name it. Lots of options in wall art for companies to license your art. Stationery and gift is a huge one. It covers, everything from notebooks and journals and planners to greeting cards and gift wrap, postcards, any kind of souvenirs that you might find when you're traveling, bookmarks, magnets, chains, keychains, and any kind of souvenir that you might find. And then there's the whole fabric and clothing industry where there's tons of licensed art with repeat patterns as well as standalone illustrations. So I'm sure you can think of even more places where you've seen licensed art, but that's just a kind of a quick look at what kind of areas as an example that you might find places that you can license your artwork to. And I wanted to include like a really quick timeline because it's a very long process that it takes from your first contract to your first royalty check. And I wanted you to see that patience is required for this industry, and it is a very long-term process. Building out an art licensing business is something that you do for the long game. The payoff comes much farther down the road when the bulk of the work has already been done. And the artwork that you create now might not be licensed for 5 years down the road. You have no idea when your art will get picked up. But that's why it's also important to create timeless designs and nothing that's too trendy, because you want stuff that can be licensed 5, even 10 years down the road. So who knows? Remember that it's just a very long process, and it can take 1 or 2 years, possibly more in some instances, till you can see your first payment. So it's definitely a long game. And first you have to make the art, create your portfolio. That can take a year. Secondly, you have to reach out to the companies once you find a company that wants to work with you, and then you have to negotiate a contract and send them your artwork. This can take a few months to over a year. And then at this point, you might receive a portion of the fee up front when you negotiate the contract and send them your art. but the rest comes down the road as the products sell. So then their company has to manufacture the product, ship it to the stores. This can take another 6 to 18 months before you see the product out in the wild, like in stores that you could physically see it selling to customers. And then once it's selling, you're going to receive the royalties maybe on a quarterly basis down the road, but you have no way of knowing if a product's even going to sell or not. And some products can sell for one season, and some products can sell consistently over many, many years, the same product. So, as mentioned, it's a long game, and once you have a few contracts in place and the products are in stores, you can start to get a reliable and recurring income, and that's the whole point. It does take a long time, and you have to be patient. You have to have other income sources for at least a few years. But once you get established and build some good relationship with some companies or an agency, then you can generally keep a consistent income coming in over time. So here's some areas I wanted to show, like the most needed design themes, things that you should include in your portfolio. I wanted to look at things that you can focus on when you are starting your portfolio and you want to know like where to start, what are the basics, what kind of images should I have? And these are the things that art directors are looking for. Every portfolio should have Christmas and holiday images, as that is the biggest category for licensing, and then followed by any of the other holidays like Halloween, Easter, Valentine's, Thanksgiving, etc. Then you can start adding some of the other categories that work best for your style of art. So just go over this quickly that, like I said, Christmas, holiday, winter, fall, Thanksgiving, Halloween, like those are like the big money makers for a lot of companies. And then followed up by themes like summer, beach, and pool, anything to do with hot weather and having fun. You can get into everyday items that include areas like pets, kitchen goods, books, any kind of hobbies, plants, food, garden, you name it. Any of those everyday things that you might see on various products when you go out to stores, there's a great place to start. Don't forget things like birthdays and celebrations and special occasions like weddings, graduations, birthday for sure. Everybody has a birthday once a year, so that's always a big industry. And then another huge industry is the babies and kids and juvenile department. So there's clothing, toys, gifts, accessories, a ton of stuff that's needed for babies and kids. Having florals in your portfolio, I think, is very important because those are always timeless and people always need new florals to put on their products. Coastal and tropical is a very popular evergreen, always selling theme. Anything to do with the water, living by water. Either it can be tropical, like with palm trees and flamingos, but it can also be coastal, more like, say, like a New England style or like beach house or think cottage or lake house ideas. Anything to do with those always does really well. I think landscapes are always a timeless theme as well, and depending on your style, there's lots of things that companies would need landscapes for. Animals, another basic theme, and as you know, there's like thousands of kinds of animals and birds. That would include like insects, butterflies, beetles, birds, reptiles, you name it. Anything to do with the animal kingdom, always needed for art licensing. And even if you do abstract artwork, you might think that you can't license that, but there's still a lot of companies and a lot of products that art like abstract work can go on, like, you know, companies that do wall art, even like blankets, notebooks, I don't know, random things like umbrellas, wall hangings, I don't know. But abstracts are still something that you can license as well. So just because you do abstract, don't think that you can't license your artwork. And then the last area I just wanted to cover would be like travel and geography. So anything to do with maps or travel. So anything to do with the whole souvenir industry, any country, city that you could travel to will need art for that particular place. And then also travel as a whole. So anything to do with lifestyle, like, travel is like sitting at the beach or any of the big major cities around the world that people travel to, the big icons. You could do, artwork based around those. That can include stuff like sitting at a pool or hiking or any of the things that you would do if you were traveling. You could make artwork for those particular areas. There's a lot of travel needed. It could be even things like, illustrations of airplanes, trains, cars, scooters, anything like that. So anything that's transportation related as well, I think would work. But anyways, those are some of the main themes that I would make sure that you have in your portfolio. And you're going to have to make sure that you're able to digitize all of this so that you can show it online and also be able to send it electronically to the companies that want to work for you. So you are going to have to learn some computer and tech skills. They might also need you to make changes, possibly in colors, to some of the artwork. So you have to figure out a process for that too that is also efficient and that you're able to do easily. One thing that I can talk about too is that some people do work with agents when they are art licensing. So you can license your art directly to companies yourself, or you can find an agent who will take care of all the outreach and contracts for you. And if you work with an agency, they are going to take a percentage of the money that you make as their fee, and that can range anywhere from 30 to 50% usually. So it does sound like a lot, but I think it could be worth it because in the long run, you're going to end up with less money, but generally they're going to get you more work. So you might find that it is very lucrative for you to work with an agency. Um, in general, you do more of the work and you don't have to worry about all the administrative stuff. Like, you work on your artwork and work on building up your portfolio, and they do all the stressful things for you if that's something that you're not interested in doing. You're just free to create your art and they can take the worry out of it for you and do the whole business end of things. So you could think about whether that's something that's going to work for you in your business. In general, it probably will take you a couple years till you're at a point where you have a good portfolio and maybe a few contracts under your belt where you could even reach out to an agency. They want to see that you have, some professionalism and a good portfolio and licensable artwork. But you can start researching like what agencies might be good for you and might be a good fit for your type of art, and reach out at that point. But just for you to know that that is an option down the road in your career as an art licensor, yeah, in art licensing, that's an option that you have. So I hope that was helpful. I just wanted to end here with mentioning a couple teachers in the art licensing space that you might want to look into just to get started if this isn't something that you've looked into before. These are a few that I do recommend. There are tons of teachers out there. There are tons of other artists that are teaching how to do it. They are sharing what they've learned. But here's a couple that I just wanted to start with. You might have even heard of some or all of these. I'm not getting paid to mention any of these people. This is just my opinion. So I've personally taken Leverage Your Art with Stacy Bloomfield, and I'm currently in her membership community, and I think she's a great teacher, and I do recommend her course. It's not cheap, but it does give you pretty much everything you need to know to get into art licensing, as well as having your own products made with your art on them. So if you want to manufacture your own products with your art images, she really does a good job of going through that whole process for you if you want to sell either retail or wholesale. She uses Photoshop for some of her training, as well as Procreate. And then Bonnie Christine has a very well-loved course that you might have heard about, and it's called Immersion, and she teaches more about repeat patterns for licensing. So if you want to design for fabric or wallpaper, she would be a really good person to go to. And her training starts out with teaching you Adobe Illustrator, and that's what she uses to create her work, and she has a large focus on that in her work. I'm going to link all of these in the description, so you can just click on them if that's easy for you. And then Kat Cocolette she's an OG in the art licensing community, I find, and most likely you have seen her work in all of the major brands out there, like, you know, Target, Anthropologie, Home Outfitters. You've seen her stuff. She has a great newsletter that I belong to, and I think it's weekly, and she has lots of tips and drawing prompts and things for you for art licensing and creating art. And then the last one is Elizabeth Silver, and she's someone I found on YouTube, and she has been in the industry for many years as an in-house artist and freelance, and she interviews a lot of other artists as well and gets all the tips and tricks for you. She does have a course. She also has some freebies and resources for you, so check out her YouTube channel. You might enjoy that. But like I said, there are countless other teachers on Instagram and YouTube and social media with great skills and great art and something to teach. Everything's going to be different for different people. I follow many others on Instagram as well, and I'm always continuously inspired and learning from all of them. So do some research and see who speaks to you and who focuses on the areas of art licensing that you are leaning towards. Don't just jump into anything without doing your due diligence and research. It is a long journey, and you should never stop learning as you go. And maybe one day you will end up teaching others how to get into art licensing. Who knows? Again, I will link everything in the description for you. So that's all I have for you. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave in the comments, again, if you have any more questions or things I didn't cover, or you want me to mention something more specifically. I would love to hear from you. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video if you liked it or got something out of it. I would appreciate it. So that's all I got. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.